That never works for us. We know how this is done. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Yeah, that's much, much, much better. A request going out to all of these people outside who are wandering around, wondering when it's going to begin. We should get you all in here because the first session is something that's going to be really, really interesting. So all of you on the outside, make sure you come in and grab your seats. It's always good to see a full house when we begin. Okay, so day two, how was yesterday? Was it good? Yeah? Wonderful. Okay, so day two of the 24th edition of the NASSCOM India Leadership Forum. For those of you joining us today, I'm Shreya. I work for First Advantage. I'm sponsored anchor. I'm going to be with you today and tomorrow. So again, mobile phones on silent, and whatever is going to happen on stage, you can record it today, unlike the Illuminati performance. So yesterday was all about smart enterprise journey from disruption to transformation. Today, we're going to begin the day with something that's going to set the stage for what we're going to be talking about. So we have an internationally acclaimed sand artist. You've seen this person on TV, film, social media, and he's also done 500 plus live shows globally. Can you even think of telling an entire story using sand? You will watch it live today. Rahul Arya, the performer with a difference, will tell the story of the entire BPM industry transforming itself to the needs of its clients. This act is an integral part of the Become World-Worthy campaign, which is being driven by the NASSCOM BPM Council with a core objective of showcasing the BPM industry's transformative journey from BPO to BPM. So ladies and gentlemen, please put your hands together and welcome the first artist for the day, Rahul Arya.
Good morning, everyone. Welcome to a lovely start. Do you remember the chirping of birds in the blue sky? In your busy schedules, did you notice that the world around you has changed forever? Many of you seem in agreement. So let's begin the day with a small game. Let us think of a few things that have had the most dramatic transformation in the last few decades. First, our communication has transformed since the introduction of a humble telephone. Our interfaces have changed drastically in the last 2 decades, from phone to the smartest phone, messages to tweets to WhatsApp, photo album to Facebook, library to Google, local grocery store to stores on apps, brick and mortar banking to one-click banking, encyclopedia to Wikipedia, utility bills to smart meters, television and movies to Netflix. When an organization looks around at its consumers, it sees a completely new breed. They have the whole world summed up into one single mobile device. Those who are adopting new devices and experiences faster than they have ever before. All this because it is a hyper-connected world. Connecting the world are the mobile, internet, and the Internet of Everything. Global sourcing, or working with partners across the globe, was conceived as an answer years ago to enable organizations to save on costs. But that has transformed rapidly over the last 2 decades to becoming an integral part of organizational strategy. Today, partners help organizations ride new technologies and disruptions with their expertise and experience in a whole new world. There is a partner enabling superlative customer service for a disruptive car company. There is another helping a beverage company decide its new product launch. While there is a partner helping a pharma company understand where its product could have gone wrong. Another is enabling higher revenues for an airline to help it fly profitably. There is a partner fixing the challenge of speed in insurance claims, while another is working with a retailer to gain a larger wallet share or helping transform the brand image of a utilities company. Every partnership has a vision for value creation in the new world order. Every organization and its partner ecosystem are trying to unlock the new code for growing profitably and sustaining it. We have unlocked it as the code for being world-worthy each day. We believe that becoming world-worthy is an interplay of riding on new trends and preparing for the future today.
When you, as our client organizations from different industries, ride on the wave of being world-worthy, so do your partners who drive the world-worthy DNA into their talent, technology, and processes. By the time we finish with this thought, and Rahul and I take a bow, do remember that someone, somewhere, would have already brought out the next disruption and challenged us to still be world-worthy. Ladies and gentlemen, the transformation of India's BPM, or Business Process Management industry.
Ladies and gentlemen, that was Keshav Murugesh, Group CEO, WNS, and Chairman NASSCOM BPM Council, getting Rahul Arya to tell the story of the BPM industry as part of the Being World-Worthy initiative. There's something fascinating about art. You can somehow never understand the nuances that go into something as beautiful as this. I think that deserves a huge round of applause. Stories told in many ways, stories conveyed in many ways. What a beautiful way to start off the day. So, what's in store for you all today? We have a full day lined up all the way to the evening. So, to answer that, I'm going to request Mr. Dinesh Malkani, President India and SAARC Cisco Systems, to come on stage. He'll be addressing the conference agenda and what you can't miss on day 2. Dinesh, all yours.
Morning.
Dinesh, you may have to coax the hydraulic podium to come up.
Yeah, well, we had a moment of that yesterday, and I think I'll avoid that for now. But good morning, everybody. When Shreya said good morning, I heard a bigger... Anyway, good. So we're all pumped up, charged up. I thought yesterday was absolutely fantastic. Yesterday, for me, was about hearing about digital transformation, not just for enterprises, because that's what we go through every day. But it was also hearing about how digital transformation is impacting cities and countries, how digitization is impacting social causes. And I think that's what makes the whole story complete. And we all have to be ready for that. We started with Mr. And I'm going to quote a few things that I picked up during the course of yesterday. First, a very interesting quote from BVR, Mohan Reddy. He said, the way forward is not to manage change, but it is to lead change. I think that is very critical. And there was another interesting thing he said. He said, startups will be the new innovation departments of enterprises. You have to have a startup within an enterprise to really change the culture, to drive that level required. You know, I actually thought the session by Ganesh on the NASSCOM Foundation, terrific. It was good to see that digital transformation, innovation is happening for good social causes, and I really want to applaud the effort that Ganesh and team and NASSCOM Foundation has been putting in. So can we hear it up for them? Thank you. And then we had our Chief Minister, you know, coming here, and he was amazing, I thought. You know, he spoke 20 minutes or so about IT. He talked about the impact of digital technologies to his state, to his country, and he did that without having a single piece of paper in front of him. When we all carry pieces of paper and we carry, you know, digital sort of this thing, he spoke ex-tempo, which means that he understands exactly what is going on and the impact of, you know, of this technology. And he actually mentioned a few things. He said real democracy can be achieved through smart governance, which is very important. Transparency, ease of doing business. He talked about Aple Sarkar portal. 99% of services delivered on time to 800,000 applicants. The real power of digitization. I recently applied for my passport. 3 days, I got it. Record time. I can tell you, this is the 4th country I'm living in. Nowhere, however progressive the country is, you can get a passport delivered to your house through our traditional speed post system in 3 days. That is amazing. And then we had Safra Katz. I thought getting that global perspective from a CEO was terrific, right? There was one thing she spoke about which I thought was very profound. She said, today it's about 1 foot on the ground while having an eye in the future. If you as a business or you as a company are only worried about today, you're going to lose out. That is very clear. There are so many disruptions happening. There's so much that you can do for the future. You have to have 1 foot on the ground and you have to have an eye on the future, and you really have to invest in that and basically. And then we had N. Chandra, who was terrific. He kind of said one thing very important. He said there will be humans for empathy and design, algorithms for everything else. How true. And we all have to be ready for that. And this is what this conference is about. It's about getting ready. It's about hearing from the best of the best. And he also mentioned one thing which was important. He said, We have to move from STEM to STEAM. And that's a key message for some of the people that are in the skills area, right? We had Rana Kapoor give us a perspective from an end user. He said, greatest opportunity for mobility and the future of money in India lies with 800 million feature phones or smartphones, right? So clearly disruption in banking, they see going digital is actually very, very critical. And then we had Angad Thakur who said wearable technology is the future, is not just for wellness. Wearable technology and technologies like that will evolve through IoT and other areas and will be applied to the entire digitization journey. And then we brought it home with R. Chandrasekhar, the president of NASSCOM, saying we will see non-linear growth in disruptive technologies. Clearly a phenomenal opportunity for us in this room. What I feel really good about is that today it is not about maintaining that same old box that has been there or that software or that upgrade that we have to worry about. It's not about that. It is about all of you in this room participating in one of the most transformational things that is ever going to happen. This is a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. You are here to listen. I would say spend the time getting prepared for what is going to be a phenomenal revolution coming towards us. While I talk about day 2, I'm going to show you a short video to bring us home on day 1 as well as set the stage up for day 2. So if you can roll the video, please.
Welcome to the Welcome to the digital age, where the pace of change is 10 times faster than during the Industrial Revolution and at 300 times the scale, creating an economic force that is 3,000 times as large. A force that is powering digital disruption, which in turn is driving the digitization of countries, cities, and companies. Digitization helps you get the right information at the right time with the right process to the right machine or person to make the right decision. It improves your decision making, transforms citizen services, and enhances your customers' experiences. It rewrites the rules of competition and reshapes markets. It means 4 of the top 10 leading companies across industries will be displaced in the next 5 years. So, what does that mean for you? Imagine how startups can scale globally with stunning speed. Think about how they can seize new market opportunities. From taxis to television networks, from healthcare to education, from hotels to banks. What happens when established companies create new value? Traditional banks provide digital wallets. Internet companies challenge car makers. Car makers compete with home energy companies. Imagine how mobile money can change entire economies by empowering unbanked populations. What happens when countries and companies can accelerate innovation, create inclusive growth, and build the workforce of the future? Imagine what happens when billions of devices are connected, industries are transformed, and citizen services are digitized. Think about an India, which can grow and prosper with globally competitive companies, financially empowered citizens, and excellent education and healthcare services. India will soon be one of the largest digitized countries in the world. Are you ready?
Okay, great. And so the question is, are you ready? Don't worry if you're not, because that's what the intent of NILF 2016 is. So while I wrap up day 1, I also want to talk about some firsts that are happening at NILF. Firstly, this amazing panoramic 270-degree setup. Isn't it amazing? Just look around, right? World class. Second, NILF goes digital. 35% of you have downloaded the app. I would encourage that we try and cross that 70-80% barrier. Encourage you to download the app, tweet, talk about, speakers, ask your questions, etc. We have a tech cafe that obviously the experiences basically are there, and experiences are going to change every day. So what you saw yesterday is not going to be the same thing that you're actually going to see today. Day 1 theme was Smart Enterprise. Day 2 today is about work and play, and you'll hear why. And day 3 tomorrow will be solutioning for India. So let me talk about day 2, right? It's going to be an exciting day. We're going to start in the morning with 3 very eminent speakers. Professor Mohanbir Sawhney. He's a director at Kellogg Management. He is globally recognized scholar, consultant, speaker in innovation and strategic marketing and new media. He has pioneered concepts like e-hubs, community-centric innovation. You know, there is something else about him that I want to talk about. He has visited every state in this country. Coming from a services background, he has traveled from Kashmir to Northeast to South. So obviously a very well-renowned person, but also having seen much of the country. Second, Rajat Paharia. He's the founder of Bunchball. And I asked him this question. I said, why did you name your company Bunchball? And he'll obviously give you the reason why. But there's something else that is actually interesting about him. He used to be a radio DJ when he was in college. So you have a founder of a company and also a radio DJ in college, right? He's also the author of the New York Times and Wall Street Journal bestseller Loyalty 3.0. So he'll be coming up next. And then we have Pankaj Patel, who leads the development and execution of Cisco's multi-billion-dollar technology portfolio. Think about all those innovations that come out of the 30,000 phenomenal engineers that work at Cisco. Pankaj leads that effort. And there is another thing about Pankaj. When Pankaj was young, he dreamt about being a monk. And then he saw those gorgeous-looking Audi cars and Ferraris and Teslas, and he said, well, forget about all that. And he went and bought himself some fast cars. So he's not the monk who sold his Ferrari, but he's the monk who loves cars. So we're going to have him after that. So with that, ladies and gentlemen, let's put our hands together for our first speaker, Professor Mohanbir Sawhney, who will be talking about, his topic is Transform or Die, the new rules of marketing in the digital age. So Professor, and before he comes on, we're going to show you a little video about him, and then we'll actually go ahead. All right, Professor, welcome.
Thank you. That was suitably embarrassing. Wow, wonderful to be with you this morning. And I want to start, actually, this conversation with a confession. And the confession is that we've been teaching marketing. I've been teaching marketing for 25 years. And everything we taught you in business school was wrong. Because we need to now disrupt marketing. We've been talking a lot about disruption, digital disruption, and in fact, I'll be talking about it later in the day. But I thought I would talk to you about disruption that is created by customer behavior. Customers have also disrupted the way they want to engage with you, the way they want to communicate with you, and the way you need to get your story across to them. So that's what I want to talk to you about. I want to talk to you about transformation of marketing, disruption of marketing, because clearly, as consumers, if you think about how our behavior has changed, how these devices we hold at the palm of our hand, which I call the remote control for your life, has completely changed the way we shop, the way we learn. But organizations, I think, are stuck. We are, as marketing academics, like the old story of the emperor with no clothes. We are teaching concepts, and I am guilty of this too. Marketing doesn't work like the way we teach in business schools. So let me tell you about what's happening on the ground, because I've been exposed to the realities and harsh realities of what companies are really struggling with and facing. And I've been helping companies all the way from Microsoft and Google down to startups really think about how they change the way we engage, change the way we connect, change the way we communicate with customers. So this is, a pretty logical way of thinking about marketing, right? I mean, if you think about this definition or this way of thinking, marketing is about creating and implementing communication campaigns and that try to convince customers about the benefits of our products and features, right? Sounds fairly logical. And the more investment you put in it, the larger the noise you can create, the more buzz you can create, the better it is. Well, this is all wrong. And I want to tell you why it's wrong. First thing that's wrong is marketing is about big campaigns. I'm here to tell you, forget about the big bang, because the big bang will be, your future exploding. You have to think about iteration and experimentation. Also, stop thinking about campaigns. You have to now start thinking about how I'm going to have a conversation. A campaign is a transaction. A conversation is an engagement and a relationship. And the third piece of bad news I have for you is you can't talk about your products. Like, wait a minute. What do you mean I can't talk about my products? Customers don't give a damn about your products. They have a problem to solve. So you have to start with them, not with you. In fact, I look at, one of my pastimes is to look at the About button on websites and see how companies describe themselves. And I want you to search your soul and ask yourself, how do you describe yourself? And you will find you are saying, we do this. These are our products. These are our solutions. These are our services. It is completely inside out. Instead of that, you should be saying, who are you? What do you want? And how can I help you? As opposed to what can I sell you? So, here's the definition of marketing that we will be working with. This is the transformation that we will be thinking about. That marketing is about ongoing engagement with customers across digital and physical channels by creating useful, timely, and engaging content that attracts them to us. And why is this content engaging? Because it gives them information, it solves a problem, it provides a service that's of value to them. So think about the three shifts that are involved here. The three shifts that are involved here is the old strategic approach to communication is not going to be outbound. What is outbound marketing? It is taking a message and convincing customers. Instead, it will be inbound, which is attracting their attention. It is not about buying attention, it's about earning their attention. In terms of the creative approach, we have made the mistake of thinking that customers are robots, that they decide rationally. They have utility functions and spreadsheets and TCO analyses, and that's how they make decisions. No. We have to tell stories that engage emotionally. And if you're able to make that emotional connection as Apple has done, and as BMW has done, and as many other, as IBM has done in the tech industry, as Microsoft is trying to do now, as Google has done so successfully. I'm sure you've all seen the Google reunion story that they did in India. It's a very, very powerful, because stories connect with us at a deeper level. Stories connect with the heart, and they bypass the head. By the way, there's a well-known fact in cognitive psychology. We feel before we think. Our brain processes later. Instinctively, we feel first. So that's the connection we have to make. We have to think about storytelling. By the way, many of you, or most of you, are in business markets. You're like, well, this works for Nike, but I sell infrastructure and BPM, and I'm selling rational stuff. No, I'll show you about some really creative storytelling that's going on in business markets. Third, the way we execute. Forget the launch and forget campaign model. We have to think about an ongoing conversation. An engagement that is, because your customers are always on, your channels are always on. You can't turn off your Twitter. You can't turn off your Facebook presence. You have to have a constant conversation that is driven by content and that takes place on an ongoing basis, in which you can embed your product launches, but it's not going to be marketing like this, it's going to be marketing like this. So, to double click on this, I'm going to talk to you about three shifts. A shift from being product-led to content-led in your strategy, a shift from rational information to emotional storytelling, and a shift from campaign-centric marketing to always-on marketing. Let's look at how these work. The first shift is from outbound to inbound. So the idea of inbound marketing actually is quite simple. What we're saying here is that in inbound marketing, we are going to start with content, with information that customers find valuable. We're going to create this, we're going to curate it. What is curation? Curation means we don't have a monopoly on content. We're going to source it from third parties. And then we're going to distribute this in a way that's relevant, in a way that's timely. And if we do this, instead of pitching our products, we're going to give information, we're going to give services that will help solve customer problems. By the way, when you do that, you earn the right to have the product conversation with them. It's a very important shift in your thinking. 180-degree reversal. And this is a study that was done recently by my professor from Wharton, Jerry Wind. And he talks about this idea that if you want your messages to be heard 5 years from now, it's going to be about content. Every brand, every company needs to think like a publisher. You will need a data room. You will need to think like a magazine publisher. You will need to think about content. And just think about the fact that if you're going to operate a newsroom that is real time, that's always on, you will run out of things to say if you're pitching products. If I tell you, come here, please talk about your product and be here 7 by 24 by 365, you'll run out of things to say. So you really need to think strategically about content and how you're going to drive that. So some of the principles in inbound marketing are, it's not about buying the attention of customers, it's about earning their attention. By the way, you earn attention. How do you earn attention? Because everybody's trying to do this, right? The way you're going to be able to earn that attention is by being relevant to them. And by the way, you can't be relevant to somebody that you do not understand. So starting point has to be customer insight and customer empathy. That tells you what they care about, what matters to them, and therefore it's about your customers and not about your products. By the way, your product is only one way or one means to solving their problem. This is an age-old misconception in marketing that if you build a better mousetrap, the world will beat a path to your door. Wrong. I don't need a mousetrap. I want to get rid of mice. I personally have a cat at home and he works pretty well. You build me the greatest mousetrap, nuclear-powered, battery-operated, my cat is another solution to the problem. Also in inbound marketing, it's about telling your story, not about selling a product. I tell them one mantra you should always keep in mind in engaging with customers is ask not what you can sell, ask how you can help. Return on investment, that's what we worry about a lot in marketing. Let me propose another concept, return on engagement. You want to show me your YouTube video, what's in it for me? Why should I watch it? What do I get? I'm investing 3 minutes of my time, what are you going to give me in return? And by the way, don't tell me you're going to sell me a product. That's not what I want. Return on engagement is the value that you provide in customers engaging with you, and that value has to be over and above the products and services you're trying to sell them. So that's inbound marketing, and the types of value that you can provide can be manifold. So these are some 6 specific ways to think about return on engagement that you can create for your customers. Informational value. Give them information that they care about. By the way, very valuable for business marketers because your customers are hungry for information. You're selling cloud solutions. Before you tell me a cloud solution, show me the way to the cloud. I'm confused. I'm concerned about data security. I'm concerned about loss of control. I'm concerned about interoperability with my in-premise systems and cloud system. First, educate me, inform me, empower me, then tell me about your solution. I saw a bumper sticker in California that I'll never forget. It says, technology is the answer. Now, what was your question? Right. So we have solutions. We're all in the solutions business, but we don't know what the problem is. So start with that. That's informational value. You can provide convenience value. You can make customers' lives easier by giving them apps or tools that can help improve the efficiency with what they do. You can create community value by connecting people to other people. When you go to a CIO summit, or why are you here? You're here partly to listen to me. I will, believe that. But you're here to meet everyone else in the audience. It's a community. It's a network. So can you help your customers engage with other customers that they care about? You can inspire them. Inspirational value by helping them being better, by empowering them. You can give them entertainment value. By the way, we underestimate the importance of how bored people are. Gamification is a very powerful idea. That you can actually give people, engage them by just creating games. And I've seen some really interesting B2B gamification examples. And social value. Make them look good in their social networks. So these are ways in which you can create return on engagement. Let's look at some examples. Informational value. Some of you might have heard of Marketo. By the way, I don't work for any of these companies. I have no commercial interest. I'm just showing you best practices. Okay? I can be an equal opportunity praiser and an equal opportunity criticizer. That's the benefit of being an academic. So at Marketo, what they're doing is they have very, very detailed, definitive guides on topics like digital marketing, mobility, lead nurturing, and so on. And if you read these titles, I personally got so interested while I was preparing this presentation that I read these guides. Wow, this 110 pages on definitive guide to digital advertising. I want to know about this. I want to know about lead nurturing. How many of you don't want to know about lead nurturing in business markets? These are interesting topics. And by the way, two things you have to raise. You all do white papers. Many of you do white papers. But I have two problems with white papers. One, after I read the first paragraph, you start selling me your product. It's just a thinly disguised version of a brochure. The second problem is, I want to read your white paper. You ask me for my life history before I download your white paper. I'm sorry. Give me something first before you ask me for my information. And if you see what Marketo does, they are actually giving you the executive summary before that right-hand side, which is tell me about yourself. So if you read this guide to digital advertising, you're like, wow, what makes digital advertising? How to create your ad strategy, pricing structures you can expect, how to target digital ads. I am now interested enough that I'm going to give you that information, right? So think about this as you provide information to your customers, because informational value is a very important way in which you can connect with your customers. Solving a problem. How many of you have had marital discord when trying to paint your house and deciding what color you're going to use? So I had this problem 5 years ago. We were painting our house, and I had prepared myself for this because I knew this fight was going to happen. So I said, here's what we're going to do. We'll pick 3 colors that both of us can agree on, and we're going to paint 3 walls of the room, and then you pick which one you like, and that's how we're going to do it. Went through the whole algorithm, and then we painted the room, and she says, I don't like it now. I said, but you picked it. We put it on a wall. She said, but it was okay when it was a little bit. Now it's too much. It looks too dark. I said, the painter is gone. You know, everything's over. She says, you want me to wake up every morning for the next 5 years and say, I hate the paint? I said, okay, I'll call the guy back, you know. So this is the problem Valspar is trying to solve for customers. So see how they do it. If you can cue the video, please.
So we work with Valspar Paints as one of our clients, and the challenge that they face with their consumers every day is that there's so many colors that consumers have to choose from for the projects they have in their home that it's hard to find the right one. Most of them have an inspiration. They know what they're looking for in their mind. They see pictures they clip from magazines. They may go on websites and save images of just the perfect room that they're looking to design for their very own home. But it's really hard when you get into the home improvement store and you look at that sea of colors and you find exactly the right shade. It's funny, you think about how many shades of blue are there and you find exactly how many there are when you go to the store. Well, to cut past all that, we thought of what's an innovative way to get past that color struggle. So what we've done is we've created an iPhone and an iPad application where we're able to use the camera technology and the high-resolution screens to be able to allow a color consultant, a real Valspar color consultant that's a professional at finding and selecting and creating colors, and invite them into your home for a 30-minute session. And during that session, you essentially are able to use the cameras to show them your space, talk about what you're trying to accomplish, give them a sense of your style. What's the home like? How do you live in it? How will you use the room? What are you going to accomplish? Are you trying to entertain there? Is it a room where you want to sit? Once you're able to do that, they're able to look around and then in real time show you real colors on the screen in high resolution, and then you can hold them up and get a real sense of how they look in your room with your light, with your setting, with your furniture, and really get a good feel for it. It's like no other design experience you could possibly envision, short of bringing a design consultant into your home and spending thousands of dollars. So with the Connect Live application for Valspar, we found a way to use technology in a breakthrough way, a way that no other brand has been able to do, and really create an experience that connects emotionally with the individual and create personalized solutions. It's the beauty of technology and marketing and really taking a brand to connect with their consumers because they understand their needs.
So you see some of the principles illustrated here. They do sell paint at the end because you get samples. But you don't start with selling, you start with helping solve a problem. This has been a very successful application. Whether there are 1 million apps on the App Store, why should I download your app? what's in it for me? Right? So you have to think about how you can help. You can help customers in a community. If you look at what is happening in the pharma industry, diabetes is a lifestyle problem. It's a chronic problem. So when people are living with diabetes, they want to connect with other people who've got the same problem to learn them to how to manage exercise, how to manage diet, how to manage nutrition, how to live with diabetes, and how to do the compliance regimen that is associated with managing diabetes. So Sanofi, instead of trying to sell the diabetes medications that they provide, has created a separate brand called the Diabetes Exchange. So Diabetes Exchange is a comprehensive portal that gives information to people about, there's a blog, there's a social networking, there's outcomes research, and also Diabetopedia, which is their own Wikipedia for diabetes. And if you see this site, there are some very emotional videos that people have contributed about juvenile diabetes and how to raise children who are suffering with this disease. Creates a lot of engagement and allows you the right to have a conversation about your remedies. Right? You can inspire people. This is a video from Corning. All the phones that you're using, the glass is made by them. We don't know about this. So this is the way Corning tries to tell you about what value they add, even though they're a B2B company. Let's watch this. So this video was so popular, 25 million people watched it, that they actually did sequels, Day Made of Glass 2 or Day Made of Glass 3. It really raised the awareness of what they do, even within a consumer audience. So what companies are starting to do now is create content marketing hubs. Google has Think with Google, and Adobe does a wonderful job of targeting the CMO with the Adobe CMO. So you need to think about how you're going to organize this whole process of content creation and think about the whole life cycle of content management. So I want you to think hard about who manages content, how do you source it, how do you organize it in a hub, how do you tag it and index it, and how do you make sure that the right content is delivered to the right channel, to the right customer at the right point in time. So this whole enterprise content management and automation of the process of sourcing, curating, and distribution content is going to become a core capability. So this is, content-led marketing, the machinery that needs to go behind it. So that's the first thing that we need to do, shift from outbound to inbound. Let's talk about our creative approach. And our creative approach needs to shift from rational to emotional storytelling. Why is that? Because stories stick with us. Stories are timeless. Stories transcend culture. And by the way, there are only a few stories. There was a book written a few years ago called The 7 Basic Plots. And basically this guy looked at 4,000 movie scripts and children's books and so on and said there are only 7 stories. Rags to riches, the hero's quest, and so on. He should have come to Bollywood, there are only 2. Separated at birth and, rich girl, poor boy, and so on. So that will cover about 80%. So,
the reason that these stories become so emotionally connecting to us is because the archetypes of stories are repeated across cultures. We instinctively associate with them. Okay? So that's the power. And consumer storytellers, if you think about great brands are great storytellers. A phenomenal campaign that Old Spice did with this guy, Mustafa, breakthrough. By the way, this led to a 100% increase in sales in a year. Starbucks, Lego, the Marlboro Man. We all know these stories. But this is happening in the tech world too. Cisco is doing phenomenal storytelling. I mean, I was with them a couple of weeks ago with Karen Walker, their CMO, and she shared with me this book that they've written, which is 100 consumer stories about IoT, right? Customer success stories about IoT. Microsoft is telling stories. In fact, they have a whole website. It's called Microsoft.com/stories. And I've been working with them on their storytelling. I teach a full-day course at Microsoft on storytelling. This is becoming a core capability. And by the way, storytelling has to be not only in B2B. It's not only about your products. Stories about your people, your culture, your heritage, your mission, your purpose. You know, because sometimes the myth in business markets is, well, my products are boring. Nobody wants to learn stories about BPO, right? So that's not what I'm talking about. There's a lot going on, the people behind your company, right? So an example of a powerful shift to storytelling was what Procter & Gamble did with the Olympics in 2012. P&G for the last 175 years has been a brand-centric company. They have sold brands, and they have not really promoted Procter & Gamble. You know Tide, you know Crest, you know Pampers, but you don't know Procter & Gamble as a consumer brand. You know them as a corporation. But they shifted this when they realized that many of their brands are actually purchased and used by the woman of the house, and she's a mom. So this Thank You Mom campaign, please try not to cry. This is the video.
Time to get up, baby.
So there is nothing more universal than motherhood. In fact, when your positioning is bad, the criticism you hear is, this is as generic as motherhood and apple pie, right? So they're tapping into a very universal emotion. What happened to the brand? The brand was there, but it was woven into the story. In good storytelling, your brand should be like oxygen. It should be everywhere, but not visible, not in your face. And this is the problem sometimes. That's the difference between good storytelling and product placement. You know, nowadays I see Bollywood movies and they have like 60 partners, you know, and everything is product placement. You know, the bad guy is getting in one kind of car and the good guys on another kind of car and so on and so forth. We have to avoid that temptation, right? So that's effective storytelling. By the way, this campaign, 2.6 billion earned impressions and $500 million in incremental sales for the 10 brands that were covered in the campaign. Procter rated this as their most successful campaign in their 175-year history. And they're a pretty good marketing company. So very different approach to storytelling. Right? Now let's look at B2B. I was in Australia last year with the Microsoft team in Sydney, and they shared with me this case study, just blew my mind. Okay, it's one thing to tell a story about Tide. How do you tell a story about Azure? What the hell is that anyway? I'm trying to tell a story about data centers. So here's what they did. Starts with the customer insight. The customer insight is that IT pros are not just geeks, they're more also musicians. Now there's some logic that there is relationship between creative problem solving and music, but that's post hoc theorization. The fact is that disproportionately IT professionals are gamers and that they are musicians. So how did they take this insight and leverage it? The creative idea they came up with was they took the real dots and dashes of data being consumed in the Azure data center and turned them into a symphony. And this is called the sound of Azure. And now you can go on the site, upload your own data streams, convert them into music and play with it using a synthesizer. So let's watch this video of how successful this campaign was.
kind of audio visualizer was built to transform real Azure data streams into musical light shows. It was actual data, AGL bills being paid, MYOB transaction happening, all the big data generated every day made musical. Then we added user-friendly control so people can get in and play.
Something not right with the video. This video got cut off, but you could literally put up your data stream and convert it into sound. You could see the sound of customers paying bills, sound of your Facebook social data, and so on. Net result is 15-minute average engagement on the site. 15,000 new Azure accounts were opened. So this is not just music. By the way, all the music you heard in this video was actual Azure data streams. It was created by that. So even in business markets, there is no B2B marketing. There is no B2C marketing. There is only P2P. Human to human, person to person, because businesses don't buy anything. People inside businesses do. So when you are connecting with a customer, you're connecting with an individual. Think about your audience that way, right? So in storytelling, you need to first start with, what is my story? What's the story I want to tell? What's the brand story that I have? By the way, you will be surprised by how many companies don't know their brand story. Go ask 10 people in your leadership team, what's our story? By the way, not what products we make. What's our story? What do we? The founders of Hewlett-Packard had a very interesting quote. They said, HP exists to make a profit, but it exists even more significantly to make a difference. What is the difference you want to make? What is in Steve Jobs' words, what is the dent in the universe you are trying to make? What's your purpose? What's your mission? Second thing you need to understand is, who's my audience? What do they care about? What are their lives? By the way, here in the Procter video, we saw how Procter understood that one of the things that mothers care about is making their children successful and picking them up when they fall. That's what their audience cares about. Then you connect the two and come up with what story I want to tell them. Because what story I want to tell them is a combination of what's your story and what they care about. Then you have to think about platforms and delivery. By the way, you should always be story-centric, not platform-centric. Once you construct the story, then think about, how am I going to play it in video? What's mobile going to do? What's social networking going to do? And also keep in mind that the story is told not only digitally, but also physically. And then think about how I'm going to evolve this over time. So that's the storytelling idea. The third key shift I want to talk to you about, and the final one, is a shift from campaigns to always-on marketing. So what's wrong with campaigns? Campaigns are enormously wasteful because you spend a lot of energy building up the momentum, ramping up, and doing the launch, and then everything dies. And then you do the whole thing all over again when you come to your next product launch. And by the way, one of the things that has happened in the world of software is, there's no such thing as a product release now. Products are released every day. You do a code push every week. You do a release, incremental release every 3 weeks. But most of our marketing runs, and I work a lot with Microsoft, their whole marketing is to work on 3-year rhythms. Office 2013, Office 2016, Windows 10, so on. And Windows 10 will probably be the last major release in terms of the conventional release. But now it's really, when your software becomes a service, your product is always on. And when your product is always on, your marketing has to be always on. It's not about launching and forgetting, right? That's the missile analogy. You launch and you forget. Besides, you can't sustain a campaign for long. They don't build relationships. They can help sell a product, but they don't build relationships. So you need to shift from this peak and valley approach, launch and forget mode, to a sustained conversation within which you can embed your product launches, of course. Right? So the themes in always on marketing are, instead of thinking about the big bang idea, think about lots of small pieces of content. Instead of thinking about the big marketing plan, think about lots of little iterations. And instead of thinking about the duration, think about the long idea that you can sustain over time. Right? So instead of sort of having a big strategy, big creative idea, and then execute it over a 6-month or a 1-year period, the new idea really is lots of little iterations. There has been a transformation of product development with the whole concept of agile. Many of you are familiar with agile development. The concept of agile needs to come to marketing. Agility needs to come to marketing, so you will have agile marketing teams that are delivering content, that are delivering pieces of campaigns in 30-day sprints, just like you do in agile. So that's the shift we need to bring. And in customer-driven always-on marketing, you need to start with the customer journey. That's going to be the most important construct in always-on marketing, is defining your customer journey and then figuring out what are the stages of intent that the customer goes through. Customer intent progresses from see to think to do to care. Those are the stages of intent. Then you need to pick up intent signals through marketing automation. You need to then nurture this intent through content so that you can get to the next stage and automate the reactions to intent. So this requires three things. It requires content, it requires agility and agile development processes, and it requires automation. Because if you don't automate, you can't do this at scale. So this is what Optum did, a healthcare company. They used to be like many of you in the room. Ask yourself if you do this, one and done marketing, which is, here's my brochure, buy $1 million deal from me. Right? So the goal is to close the big sale. In business marketing, 95% of the time when your salesperson talks to a customer, they're not ready to buy. Not just yet. So you need to think about how you're going to nurture the process. So what they did in changing their approach to marketing was, they said, let's think of this like a dating analogy. We are asking people to marry us on the first date. Right? It doesn't work like that. There's a decision process the customer goes through. It's a journey they go through. So we need to think about this as a progression. And we need to think about the metrics. The metrics are, by the way, if you run a marketing organization or if you are responsible for managing a marketing organization, tell them they only need to do 2 things for you with sales. 1 is generate more leads. 2 is accelerate the time to lead closure. Sales acceleration and lead generation. Those are the 2 metrics I thought about. So what did they do? They created a comprehensive content mix. But if you know what's happening in healthcare in the United States, we're going through a disruption with affordable care, what is called Obamacare, and consumer-driven healthcare. So insurance companies are running scared. They don't know how to manage consumer-directed healthcare. So they are hungry for content. So they created a series of content pieces on white papers, thought leadership pieces on health reform and healthcare, and then had a programmatic engagement over time that is then supplemented with paid media to drive traffic. So that's the always on. By the way, notice how the always on strategy goes hand in hand with what I talked about earlier, which is content marketing. And the outcomes here, the most important metric that I think about is $52 million in TCV, total contract value of deals that they got with $1 million invested. And a lead to conversion rate of 25%. So that's the idea of an always on marketing. So in summary, 3 things we talked about in transforming marketing. One is our approach needs to be about attracting attention, not buying attention. The second thing is our storytelling approach has to be about connecting emotionally and not just providing rational information. And the third, in terms of our execution and process, we need to think about being always on and agile as opposed to the launch and forget and the big bang campaign. So I hope this gives you a flavor for where marketing is headed. And if you don't disrupt marketing, you will get disrupted yourself because your customers are tuning out. And they are not going to behave the way that customers of the old used to. So thank you very much for coming this morning and listening to me.
Thank you, Professor. Thank you very much. So if I can ask you just to stay back for receiving a small token of our And you know, this was very insightful. You know, some of the disruptions, we keep thinking about technology, but it's not just about technology, it's about marketing, it's about, you know, our entire supply chain, process management, etc. So if I can have somebody from NASSCOM just provide him the momentum. Yeah. And you know, by the way, Professor has a session later, so if you have any questions, you can. Thank you. This is your permission. Thank you. All right. Thank you again. Thank you.